Today, I want to take on the challenge of directing and creating a shot from AI. And what I mean by that is I want to control the movement, the amount of movement, the timing of the movement, the direction of the movement, everything that goes into the shot, I want to have control versus how we usually use these video gens is maximum we have some kind of text that drives it. Maybe we have a start and an end image, but we have no control over the timing. We have no control over the middle of the shot, what happens in the shot, the action of the shot. That's all up to the AI to figure out. And that can be good sometimes, but sometimes you want to have more control. And in order to do that, we're going to create a series of keyframes that precisely controls the timing and look of our output product. So let's get into it.
So here's my idea. I want to create a flame dragon, like a mage summoning a flame dragon. And what I want to direct is the way that the flames form. And I'm going to use DALL-E for that, just because I like how DALL-E handles magic. All right, this is fine. So let's go with this. This is going to be our base image. And there's some things that we're going to tweak about it, but it's a great starting point. So what I'm going to do is I just drag this into my Invoke. I'm going to use Invoke to create keyframes because it has basically the two features that I need, which is I want to draw a path of where I want the magic to go, and then I need the AI to interpret it. So I've just dragged this image into here. It's in the assets folder. And I'm going to go to this. I'm under the generation tab over here. And I'm going to go to the control layers and add a global initial image and a control adapter layer. And I'm going to just drag this from the assets, which is just the thing I just created in DALL-E real fast. I'm going to drag it into both. My settings are an HD setting. Prompt, I'm just going to basically, I'll put in the same prompt as what I put into DALL-E. This is the negative prompt. I don't want any of these things, so I'm just going to leave that. And let's generate. All right, so it recreated our image just in this LoRa model, and now it's fully in Evoke, so I can now edit it. But basically, it's the same image, just with using this model. And I'm going to just move that into my unified canvas. And we'll start editing from here. So this is going to be my final image. I don't like this, whatever this is, this rune circle and this like loopy. So I'm going to fix my final image first by bringing it into the unified canvas. So now we're in the canvas stage. And all I'm going to do is use this mask. If you're not familiar with this tool, I do have a whole tutorial on using it. We actually use it in a different way this time by bringing in our own image instead of generating it right in Invoke. But it's basically the same from there. So all I'm going to do is paint the areas that I kind of don't like, and I just want to turn those into swirling flames. I'm going to include a little extra area just in case it needs to work with something, but it probably won't. Hit the Invoke button. All right, this side did great. This side needs a little help. I'm going to accept that. And then I'm going to go help this side by going onto the base layer. And I'm going to press C for color picker, pick a fire color, and just add a little swirl like this. Go back to the mask layer. I'm going to rerun the same. I don't want to get any of that face in there. I'm going to rerun the same prompt, just on the new area. All right, great. So this will be I'll accept those changes. This will be my end frame. So I'm going to save that. And it goes right here. So this is the last frame that I want. And we're going to work backwards, creating keyframes with less and less of this, but it will eventually become this. So the first thing I'm going to do is this is going to become swirling flames. I don't want this to be a dragon yet. It shouldn't be that clear that it's a dragon at this point. I want it to build up to be a dragon. So I'm going to use the same exact prompt, except select the dragon face, hit the generate button. I'm going to accept that. So every keyframe, the flames should be a little bit different because they're flames. They're constantly moving. So every area that I want it to just change up a little bit per frame, I'm going to select that and run the same exact prompt. So all of this, I'm going to select this and this. Here. So it's just going to add, every keyframe is going to indicate that there's a little bit of movement per keyframe instead of something solid. Like if I wanted, like the mage, I'm going to leave her untouched because I just want her pose to be the same. If I wanted her hands to move or something like that, then I would go in and repaint the positioning of that. But for now, I want to adjust the flames. So last version is this version is this. They're almost the same, but they're slightly offset. And now these are the main growing flames. I want to reduce them. I'm going to go back to the base layer and we're going to color pick this background by pressing C. And I'm going to take these out. All right, great. So let's see. Before, after, yeah, let's do that. So this is going to be my second to last keyframe. This is what I just saved. Let's select for compare, and I'll select it to compare against the last frame. And if we look at them, so this is the one with the dragon, the original, or the last keyframe, and this is before. So you could see like the tendrils are, these tendrils on the side are reduced, and the head of the dragon is gone. So it's just flame at this point. And these background flames are just in different, like a different seed almost, like a different, they're in the same position, but they're just like slightly offset, right? The mage is exactly the same. Everything else is the same. So that's exactly what I want it to look like. Let's go back to unified canvas. And we're going to reduce this one more time. So we're going to reduce it even more now for the next, now this is the third to last keyframe. So I'm going to come back in, do the same exact thing, paint down or remove some of this swirl. All right, before, after, great. This whole side is reduced now. This is reduced. Let's accept that. I actually just want to create a different seed for these flames. So let's select the flames that are currently in there, including the ones around the hands and the one on the floor here, and just rerun that. Okay. Now just to mix things up, let's say I do want to actually add back some flames. Like maybe I want to actually shape how they're forming. So I could go back to the base layer. I could select this paint thing. All right, maybe I want more around her hands. I want them to come out like lower, maybe. Let's say this. Just as an example, I could really direct exactly where I want them to go. So I just want them more emphasis on them coming out of her hands. And I'm going to go back to the mask layer and just rerun the same thing. Great. You know what? I'll take that for now. Before. And let's save this as our third to last keyframe. And we're going to go 2 more times. Back to the base layer. Great. Let's go with that. I'm going to accept that. And then let's do one more keyframe. I'm going to save. So right now we have 4 keyframes. The last one, I want the flames to be as only around her hands as much as I can get. Okay, great. So this will be my first keyframe, but the last one I'm doing here. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 keyframes now. Let's see. They look like, let me see if I can load them. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can kind of see how the progression is starting only around her hands. It goes in front of her hands and in front of her body. It extends from that and goes around the floor. It builds from the floor almost into the dragon shape, and then it becomes the dragon shape. All right, so we got a blank ComfyUI over here. First thing, I'm gonna load those keyframes in. Okay, so I've loaded all of them in, and what I wanna do is batch them. Now what batch does is it puts them in sequence, kind of like like frames, basically. Um, and in this case, it will just be 5 different frames. So if I was to export it right after the batch, it would just be a 5-frame sequence. And the only way I know how to do this is with a single batch image on for only two images. So if anyone knows a better way to just plug in all the images into one, maybe that would be a lot easier. So let me know in the comments. This last one, I'm gonna repeat it a few times. I'm just gonna repeat it twice because I want it to hold on this last image for a little. And I'm gonna run it through this Rife. What Rife does is it interpolates between keyframes. So I have 7 keyframes now, and I want to let's say I want to do around 48 maybe total. So I'm gonna run this 7 each, which will be 49, and so it'll round. I'll have 1 extra. That's fine. So this is multiplying. The Rife is interpolating 7 keyframes in between each of these keyframes. So just to summarize, the batch images, it's putting each of these in sequence. So I have 5 in a sequence. If I was to use this video combined, at the end of this batch, it would run 7 frames because it's one of these and then this one twice. If I interpolate 7 keyframes in between each of those, now it's exporting 49 keyframes. Does that make sense? If not, don't worry about it. It's just smoothing in between each of these keyframes. I don't even need to save this output. I'm going to run this. This is just setting up what's going to drive our animation. All right, so as you can see, it's interpolating between all the frames now. So this is just the base of what we're going to use to drive the image. So I'm going to leave this up here. Let's get started with the actual animation now. First thing, we're going to load a checkpoint. Pretty standard. The checkpoint that you choose and any lures that you add are strongly going to determine the style. I just like this one, realistic fantasy, but you can choose any style that you want. It really doesn't matter. Any 1.5 style will work. And then we immediately go to the clip text. All right, so just like any Stable Diffusion, you usually have a prompt and a negative prompt. Some people like to color this for clarity. I will do that. I'm gonna run this into the animate diff. We're gonna use the V3. We could scale. We might want to scale it. I like to start at 1.5 usually, and sometimes you need to go up or down. And we need this, the context options. So my model is going to go in here. We also need a control net. All right, so this is going to go here. The first one I want is a tile. And I actually want to use two. The second one is going to be a depth map. So we're going to use this image as the source for all of that. The tile, this can go straight in, and the depth map has to run through a preprocessor. Then go into here, and let's preview this. So these two control nets, what they're going to do is tile will basically directly takes this image and applies it to the output image. And if I leave it at this strength 1:1, it will basically look exactly like this. It will look, which is not what we want. I want the animate diff to actually just use it as a base, and this kind of just guides where it starts. So I'm going to lower this n% by a lot. Like I'm going to make it, let's start with 0.35. And it's the same thing for the depth map. It's going to generate a depth map. I'll show this to you once it's created. But I don't want the depth map to be overly controlling. I just want it to guide the movement a little bit. So I'm going to lower the strength by a lot, and maybe even I'll do the same 0.35 for now. All right, so I have my control net group and my animate diff group, and we just run that into a case sampler. And we're going to set the batch size to 48. I think this has to be in a factor of 16, which is why I just did 48, even though we actually have 49 frames in this. The CFG, I'm going to actually put it pretty high because I do want it to be consistent from frame to frame. And the higher the CFG, the more consistent it is. In fact, if you do it too high, like you do something really crazy, it might not even move. So I'm going to put it up. Let's do 12 for now. All right, so for the prompt, let's start with what we've had for the original prompt, which was this. It's actually most important. So any style that you put in here is probably going to be driven by the checkpoint, the tile control net, and if I had an IP adapter, which I don't right now, that would control the style more than the prompt. What I really want in the prompt to control is any motion. I'm gonna leave most of this in. Let's run this and see how it comes out first. So I'm gonna make some changes. This is not bad. I like the motion overall, but I'm not liking the overall style. It's looking a little bit too painterly to me. And I don't love how this flame is flailing out and down. That one seems to be messing everything up. So I'm gonna just remove that keyframe, which is the reason why we created so many keyframes in the first place. Like we want to have full control over the movement of this flame. So I'm gonna take out this one because I think it's not working. It's too different. Like it's too unnatural. I wanted it to be a little bit unnatural, but it's too unnatural. And I'm gonna put this second keyframe in its place, and I will double up on the first keyframe. So it'll hold this position, then continue as normal. I think I'm gonna add an IP adapter because the style it's not exactly what I'm looking for. So let's add that. So model goes in here. And the image source is going to be this same batch image. So this is looking pretty good to me. I think I'll take this. If I was to push it to the next level, I would try to increase the resolution. Like it's getting pretty pixely, especially around these edges. The hands are looking a little strange. That's a one very noticeable area that it's kind of a little bit off. This shape in the beginning where it's just holding this one little curve, that's a little weird. So if I was to, maybe I would add a keyframe if I was really being really picky about it, just to get rid of it holding that shape so long, or maybe I would have it match more closely to this curve of the dragon. But overall, you get the point. I think it's pretty clear what I'm trying to do here. It's create the controls that I need to direct this thing. I will try to find somewhere to put this workflow, so it'll be linked so you can see all the final values for yourself. Okay, so just for comparison's sake, I'm going to load as many as I can into Luma. Almost the same prompt. I've got the first and last frames here, and let's see if it works. Okay, here's my results. Actually, this is pretty cool in the beginning, but I like how the flames. First of all, the speed is nice, and the transition to the second half. The problem is the dragon is very robotic. So that's kind of supposed to be the main focus, is this dragon shape forming, and it didn't really do that. So there are elements that I like about this. I like how it pretty directly captured my reference, and it had some great motion in these flames, at least initially. But this dragon shape, which is kind of the main point of this, looks pretty awkward. So you kind of have no choice in Luma but to try again. So let's try again and reload it, which I did over here. And this is wrong. So yeah, this didn't come out at all like I intended. And that's exactly why we need a solution that is more directable and we have more control over it. Because if we don't want to just keep uploading the same images again and again and hoping that we get what we want, at least there is a path that we can take to more directly control it. So that's it for today. Happy creating. You know, where other channels are just telling you what the tools are about, I'm trying to show you how to use them and how to use them in a really high level. So subscribe for future videos, and I will see you in the next one.
Power, that's like it.